Yo, so here's my pack of 100 wavetables. I made these over a few weeks, 1 or 2 months maybe, and these are kind of my 100 favorites that I made that I put together in a pack. I use these with Bitwig's Polymer, but you can use pretty much any synth like Faceplant, Vital, Pigments, Serum 2, whatever, Surge, all of the major wavetable synths should work. You'll just need to import them. Bitwig, you click here, select the folder, and then you've got all of these wavetables. I just want to play you a few example sounds so you know what you're getting. And these are mainly sort of focused around bass sounds, but some of them are also more for sort of sound designing weird stuff and sort of more higher up frequencies. So I'll just go through a couple, kind of selecting them randomly. Their names are a bit random, but it'll just help you remember which is which, I think. So we have stuff like this. Let me just find some. This one is quite nice. Basically, try to keep them relatively clean, but add a lot of sort of character into them. Get some sort of interesting sounds out of them that maybe without wavetables you wouldn't really be likely to get. Like, none of these are sounds that you'll just easily get with FM synthesis or something, except for one example, which is this one here, which is just a bunch of overtones of a sine wave, because Bitwig has one of these, but it's really low resolution and has a lot of sort of aliasing artifacts, so I kind of made my own one. Thought I'd include that as well. I'll just play a few more. And I'll show you how I would use these in a second. Let's maybe find some other one. This is quite a nice one. And there's also some that are sort of maybe a bit more experimental, like for example maybe this one. That you would want to modulate quite slowly. This is kind of like sort of talky ones. There's some more that are quite. This one is quite nice. But it's not the one I'm looking for. Maybe this one here. So yeah, there's lots of sort of variations. Certain kinds of sounds, basically just the kind of wavetables that I think would work well for kind of relatively flexible sound design. And the way that I would normally use wavetables is that they kind of, in my opinion at least, work best when you basically almost treat them like a preset that has all of the general movements of the sound already baked in, and you kind of process it to its advantage. So in my normal sound design, I would start with very simple waveforms like sines and saws and basically add lots of interest through different effects and stuff. Well, with wavetables, I feel like it works best if you kind of take the wavetable as it is and really try to play to its strengths and kind of take it as, okay, here's a almost pre-made sound that you just tweak a little bit. So let's maybe pick one here. And basically, of course, with wavetables is all about movement. So we could like let me find one. I feel like I have one called Mongolian Dragon somewhere. Don't ask me why it's called that. None of these names make a lot of sense, but so for example, you would have this, and then you kind of have your note that you're gonna be playing, and then of course you will want to just somehow induce some movement into the wavetable, and I just fucking deleted the thing. There we go. So you could do this either by just automating this. If I automate this by hand, I usually like to use a macro for this, just because then I get to also map this to other parameters. So we could, like, if we want to make like a bass sound, a really fun kind of technique is to just use the draw tool and kind of draw a shape. Maybe something a bit slower here. Or we could of course use an LFO. Kind of, I don't know. Maybe make this unipolar and make the range not quite as far. It's a bit faster. Or actually make it slower, and then for example we could use another LFO to kind of give this maybe some gain movement, I don't know. just making stuff up as I go here. None of this is like super thought out. So we could like, so it'll kind of scan through the wavetable here while we kind of change the speed of this. And because this is a wavetable and not a basic oscillator, there's a lot of sort of interest in the automation already. So let's maybe set both of these to re-trigger to the node, so we kind of get a consistent result. And we can kind of mess with the speeds of these. So something like this here. Next thing I would probably want to do in this case is just layer in a sub here, kind of get that separated. So I would just kind of EQ the sub out of this, because really what I find interesting about the sound is sort of more the low mids and mid. And then we can get like another oscillator that's not really moving, to kind of add our weight and our power in the sub range. And then maybe we just take these, or at least this LFO here, and move it over here while holding control. So now it's still modulating this, but we can also use it to modulate a sub, to just glue them together a little bit, maybe. Something like this. And then let's maybe process this a little bit. I don't know what we want to do, maybe OTT. This is a fun OTT thing I've been using recently. Basically, I just put 4 OTTs into a freak split, and I think it sounds really cool. Maybe we map this to this parameter. Or maybe do the opposite. Nah, I don't like that in this case. Let's maybe look into some multiband. We just kind of want to kind of boost the highs, maybe compress them a little bit. Upwards and downwards, just kind of push them into the compressor. Because I quite like that sort of wet sound in the high end here. Then we want to EQ this, basically pick the ranges of the spectrum best. I quite like this stuff. And then maybe let's think about, so we have bass here, and let's maybe try to kind of process it together with the bass. So it's kind of glued together a little bit more, so just maybe compress or distort it together. Smash and Compressor Plus is kind of like a nice hybrid between compression and distortion. I don't want to distort this too much, because I quite like that sort of glassy, clear sound. That's something that you can often get with wavetables. That's often something I kind of go for, because it's difficult to get it from other types of synthesis. So I don't want to add too many harmonics here. Then let's maybe think about OTTing them together, I'm not sure. Or maybe then we could add a bit of harmonics to the maybe. And then let's maybe automate the volume of the sub a bit, also using this kind of envelope. You think that you hear that really kind of glues them together. And this, for example, could be used like as a bass sound or whatever. Bunch of stuff we could still do till this, of course. But I would probably want to do that in the context of a song. Another thing we could do, completely different use of wavetables, maybe using one of the more wacky, weird wavetables. Is kind of use them for like sound designy stuff. So making mud pies with them. Basically what I would do is maybe use a random modulator, kind of jump between places in this wavetable. Let's see, I'm not getting any sound. And let's maybe choose one that has a bit more detail in it, so like that moves a bit more, because a lot of these that are kind of designed for basses basically go from place A to place B in an interesting way, while the ones sort of more designed for sound design, like maybe the Spectronator here, they kind of go through a couple of different stages here. Maybe spectral harsh. Nah, spectrum piercing, maybe Spectronator is good for now. So we could kind of use this to kind of get some kind of percussive sound effects out of it. I don't know. Maybe use some tremolo. I always like using tremolo for this kind of thing. Just kind of randomize the speed. Just to kind of get some dynamics into the sound, you know? Maybe make this a bit smoother. Make the tremolo a bit slow. Maybe even stack multiple tremolos. Or what I also like doing is just putting tremolo in a multiband FX. Kind of tremolating highs, mids, and lows differently. So we get these kind of interesting sound effects out of this, and we could take this a couple of different directions. One would be, for example, using something like a transient shaper to kind of really make it more dynamic. Let's maybe OTT this first. Actually, let's use the frequency split OTT, because I quite like that. Just gonna put a little bit of spectral taming on here, just so it doesn't get too hard. And we would want to turn this into sound effects somehow, so we want a bit more movement. Let's maybe get more tremolos. And we could just use like rolling sampler and kind of, you know, drag these out. Maybe we would want to use something like a reverb. And what's nice with this reverb, I think this is sometimes free, is you can kind of automate these and it sounds alright. It's not something you can save for a lot of reverb, so I'm just gonna randomize like the size. And maybe also randomize the diffusion is probably a good idea, and maybe the decay time. And this should sound decent. With other reverbs you often get like clicky things or something, which is quite annoying. But this tends to handle it fine. And let's also randomize the dry-wet mix. Where do we have it here? No, not mix lock, just mix. There we go. Just add another random. And just get this mix. Where do we have it here? So we can kind of get. Put another OTT on it. Why not? Compressor. And then it's often quite cool to kind of have some morphing EQ things. So what I often like to do is just put a random here. And you're gonna see in a second why having access to like 100 different wavetables using this technique is really cool, because you can very quickly get lots of different sounds. So we've randomized the morph here. Let's maybe swap these. So we get all these cool kind of gestural sound effects and like risers and stuff out of it. So we could now just try out some different wavetables, see how that sounds with this FX chain. could be really fun to resample. And of course, if you spend a bit more time building this FX chain to get some nicer sounds, I can just show you quickly. I have like some chains here I've pre-made. I just basically just transform any sound with these. So like I could. And you get lots of cool kind of little interesting sound effects that either you're using the master recording here or you're kind of resampling, and then you can kind of take these and chop these into your beats and stuff and add lots of interesting character. So yeah, these are kind of the two main use cases for wavetables for me personally. I guess another quite cool thing you can do with wavetables is if you're designing more traditional basses, what you could do is, at least traditional for me, I don't know, different people work differently, of course. Let's think what we want with polygrid. And what we could do is like kind of your classic kind of FM bass, where you would kind of have like an FM wob, just having two signs or something. Let's just hear what this sounds like. Sounds a bit boring. So what we could do is just swap this out for a wavetable or selector, and then just see what it sounds like with different wavetables here. So yeah, wavetables as an FM source is something I really enjoy doing. Then of course we can also automate the index and stuff. And so you can kind of layer up this depth of movement. So yeah, lots of kind of cool different sounds you could use for like drum and bass, dubstep, whatever. But you could also do slow droney stuff, of course, with this. So I don't know. If you're more into ambient or whatever, you could like make a drone out of this, just putting an LFO in it, or multiple LFOs. Just kind of maybe modulating this a little bit, picking one of my wavetables. Let's make this a bit longer, turn it into a drone, just for the sake of... You could even do something silly, like use a long delay, get this sign's output, and feedback it into to audio rate modulate the wavetable position, just because we can, I don't know. And then we could, I don't know, make this stereo. So like by just, I don't know, putting something weird like a flanger on this. randomize the speed of the LFO a little bit. Okay, yeah, I think I just want to show you a few examples of what you can do with wavetables. There's tons of stuff you can do with them, of course. I mean, just an oscillator. You can do anything with an oscillator. I'm sure you have more ideas yourself. So yeah, this is my pack of 100 wavetables. You should go check it out. It's $5, so it's pretty cheap, I would say. These are the 100 favorites that I kind of picked out. And yeah, hope you have fun with them. Maybe send me some sounds you made with them. Cheers. Bye.